the NTUC thing, right? That was the foremost on my mind. I felt that it was a lot of sidestepping, right? A lot of sort of absolving himself and the NTUC management and all.
For a large part of these past few days, we have heard so much about all the amazing things that the PAP has done. They never fall short of talking about all the things they've done well. But when these kind of things are just swept under the carpet, it's a big problem.
Gigine Wong, very contrite, obviously, looked very sad and all these things. And I hope someone vetted her speech this time.
She was about to go up to Gigine. Let me take a look.
Don't deviate, don't deviate. And bowing now, honestly, after Goh Meng Seng and PPP did it already, doesn't mean anything anymore.
Fucking small market for bows, yeah. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Yah Lah, your daily podcast during this GE, where we talk about the hottest news with a touch of what, Terence?
Good old humor.
Good old humor, man.
Yeah.
It's day 6.
Day 6.
Day 6. 4 more days.
No, 3 more
till
days.
Thursday, what?
Oh, I'm just
today.
thinking of hustings only.
Oh, yeah, no. Including today, Thursday, till Monday to Thursday.
Correct, yeah.
So, I mean, the weekend has no more meaning anymore.
Yeah.
What
yesterday,
weekend? Yeah, that's right. Yesterday was damn interesting. But today, we are going to the central south of Singapore, which is Tanjong Pagar GRC, where there's a 2 people fight.
Okay.
PAP versus PAR. Radin Mas SMC, again PAP versus PAR, and an independent candidate. Queenstown SMC, PAP versus PAR again, and Bishan Toa Payoh GRC, which is PAP versus SPP.
Yeah. Exciting.
So, I mean, like another part of Singapore we're going to conquer. Lah.
Yeah, I think the places that we're going to are quite different from where we've been the last couple of days. Towards the east of Singapore. Now it's the central south.
And if people are seeing us for the first or second time, why should they tune in to what we're doing with our APolitical Party Bus?
Because we're the only ones who are on the ground, like going to each of these places, providing updates, not only in terms of what's going on in the news, but like literally stuff going on the ground. Like, like yesterday was a really exciting day, right?
Yeah, because we were at Serangoon Gardens, and in the background, who showed up?
Mr. Pritam Singh himself, leader of the opposition, and it's not in the typical way that you would expect. So do check out the video.
I mean, someone pointed out that we are technically the first person to ever have him on a podcast.
Yeah, with actual lines.
Yeah, with actual lines. Yeah. So that was cool. And I mean, we are recording one podcast every day in a specific location, the most hotly contested constituency. But we're also recording on the street videos and a lot of content that will go out on our social media.
Yeah.
So follow us there. Yeah. We got a lot of stuff to dig into that came about last night. But first, we have a couple of people to thank. Yeah. So first of all, we have Lendella. They have come on board as our primary sponsor and your official transparency ally for GE2025. They're basically a loan matching platform. And, they also believe that consumers deserve to know their real options in order to make an informed decision. So, I mean, very relevant. It's all about understanding what the real choices are before you decide. And similarly, voters like you deserve transparency to make an informed choice at the ballot box. So it's cool because their values align with us. We are also trying to keep things honest, keep things real. And it's cool to have them on board.
And of course, special thanks to West Point Transit for making this bus possible. The whole team, especially Bala, who's been with us on this whole journey, have been bringing us around in this bright yellow bus that is really attracting a lot of eyeballs and, making people turn their heads whenever we pass by. So shout out to West Point Transit for making this all possible, man.
Yeah, so West Point providing the transport, Lendella working with us, as a platform for honest and diverse perspectives this GE2025. You can find out all the info in the show notes. The links to their website are there. But now, on to the podcast. All right, we are here in, where are we, Terence?
In the midst of the sleepy, retro, very, very cool town of Tiong Bahru.
Specifically, this is like the famed walk-up flats.
Yeah. So you see the architecture behind us, like those balconies, very, very iconic, very, very sought after by millennial hipsters.
I mean, even if you walk around, this is a Monday morning at about 10:30.
Yeah.
It's still, you're going to got people working on their plants.
Yeah. Walking the dogs.
Cats outside the house sleeping.
Yeah, going for jogs. Things like that. Very chill.
It's very, very chill. So, I mean, different landscape for us today.
But what constituency are we in?
We are in Tanjong Pagar GRC, which is a two-way fight between PAP and PAR.
Yeah.
The PAP team is led by Chan Chun Sing.
Yes, Chan Chun Sing himself. I mean, this was the LKY stronghold, right?
Yeah.
Everyone knows it as the LKY stronghold.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of talk that the LKY effect still lingers.
Oh,
Yeah. That's why it's still considered a stronghold.
I mean, but you rarely hear about it as one of the most hotly contested GRCs.
You don't. It's-
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, like there was some confusion because when we were planning where to shoot, we wanted to shoot near, the CBD, the Goko Tower or something.
Yeah.
But those all fall under Jalan Besar.
Yeah, it's different.
And that's literally opposite Tiong Bahru Market.
Yeah,
Right.
correct.
So, Tanjong Pagar Market.
Tanjong Pagar
Market.
Yeah.
And it's not in Tanjong Pagar GRC. Like.
Yeah.
But yeah, interesting. So today, like covering this sort of area, we're going to the south of Singapore.
Yeah. Central South, right?
Central
Yeah.
South, yeah.
Yep.
Central South. But to recap, yesterday we went to Aljunied, Tampines, Pasir Ris Changi, and Tampines Changkat.
Yeah, it's crazy. We went to Aljunied, but actually we went to Serangoon Gardens. Right?
That's true.
So we recorded an episode, and I only know that place as a midnight supper kind of place. I didn't
Yeah.
know during the mornings and
Them
all.
happening, right?
So happening, so active.
Yeah.
Do you think it's just an election thing?
No. I think because like when I was growing up, once in a while, secondary school or JC, after some midnights would meet there.
Yeah.
It was always a pain to get to from Tampines,
Yeah.
But because like ever since then, my wife's family is from around that area.
Yeah.
So we go there quite often, and I think it's the same thing happening in a lot of places where cool cafes are popping up. So you get people going there, lah.
Yeah.
But I will say that the vibe there, I think yesterday was extra electricity because at the food market we were at, the WP Aljunied team was there. But generally, I think it's quite pumping.
Yeah, you can see the snippets on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
Where we did a live there. We're surrounded by blue volunteers.
Yeah.
We were, exchanging. We wouldn't say exchange pleasantries. Eye contact.
Eye contact. Yeah.
With a lot of the Workers' Party candidates.
I mean,
themselves.
like very nice eye contact.
Nice
It wasn't
eye contact.
adversarial eye contact.
Yeah. It was like not the you can't wrap me around with a. What was it? What did Pritam say? What is it?
A thread,
you
is
can't
it?
wrap me. You can't bind me with a sewing thread. Yeah. Not that kind of adversarial look, lah.
Yeah.
But it was more like, hey, nice to see you here.
In fact, throughout that whole period, we made eye contact with a lot of people. Pritam, Gerald Giam. In the video, when he's on with Pritam, you can see him laughing.
Yeah.
Then we met Kenneth,
that's
who's
right,
the
we
fifth
spoke to
member
him.
of the Aljunied GRC.
Yeah.
So, I mean, interesting, lah. And it was nice because I think at one point when Pritam moved from one side to the other side, there was a round of applause.
Yeah, people were cheering, just cheering him walking from one side of the hawker center to the other.
Wow, the energy,
I mean, I can only dream one day that people will cheer for me when I walk from one end of the hawker center to another to buy chee kueh.
So imagine, you have your main meal, then you want to get a drink, right?
Yeah,
Or
people
something.
cheering for you.
But thinking about it, there was something so nice there. Unfortunately, it's only when this comes out, right? And I think that's where a local, say, football league, right? That's what Singapore misses.
Yeah.
Because like in overseas countries where you have bigger countries and you have football teams, right? People unite around the team, lah. In Singapore, we don't have anything to unite in our own constituency except for elections.
It might be coming.
Oh,
Now
that's
with,
true.
There's a
new management.
FAS president also.
Yeah, I think the current captain of the football team is going to be like senior management in the FAS also.
I see.
I know
Nice.
Sean Bai from Burnley is also going to be involved.
Okay.
So can you imagine if next time that same fervor, right, at Serangoon Gardens Market is the day of a Serangoon football club match, and everybody's damn hyped.
Yeah, I mean that'll be pretty awesome, man. It sounds like it'll be fun.
It'll be fun. But I mean now it is elections.
Yeah, but how about the other parts of the
correct.
of the
How
day
can
as
we
well?
forget?
I mean, we went over to Tampines.
Tampines Hub.
Changkat. Then we went to Tampines Hub. We checked out Tampines Changkat. We checked out Pasir Ris as well.
Yeah.
What's the vibe in those areas?
I mean, Pasir Ris is really damn chill.
Yeah.
It's really damn chill. It almost feels like you're in a different country.
Yeah.
Like the pace of life slows down. We spoke to our good friend Sudhir.
Yes.
And he said, that's the Parisian way of life.
Yeah. What I don't get why you call yourself Parisian when it's Pasir Ris.
I think they take the pa and the ris.
Oh, Parisian. I see.
It's a bit of a force, lah.
Isn't they can call it Parisian, then
Yeah,
it'll be
Parisian, but no,
But no, they
Parisian.
don't. Parisian.
That's appropriation, lah. Appropriation. Guilty of
But
appropriation.
yeah, interesting because SDA is contesting there, right?
Yeah,
That's what they live and all.
SDA,
And I think we saw their new party colours now.
Yeah.
We finally saw their posters around as well, which
Yeah.
are very unique. The posters are not like typical candidate posters.
Yeah, but what do you think of the new party colours? Because I think a lot of people are not aware. No, first of all, SDA they're not contesting in many places, but I think a lot of people are not even aware much of them as a party as a whole.
Yeah, I mean everyone ragged them for the neon green colours they had before. But now they look like they're trying to sell me a credit card and give me like free luggage or something like.
Because now their new colour is what?
Like just blue.
Blue
Like,
lah.
I wouldn't call it like it's like a CBD blue. Hey,
Yeah, like why,
like boring
man?
blue.
I mean, the neon green people were making fun of it, but it became their thing.
Yeah,
you know?
iconic.
It was iconic. And we met Desmond Lim on a recent podcast. Really
Yeah.
sweet guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, the blue thing now is lost in the noise. Like, because when you say blue, what's the one party that comes to mind?
Workers' Party.
Yeah, Workers' Party.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
Wasted.
I mean, that's one thing. But
But their posters are unique, lah. If you can,
They
do
are
check
lah.
out their posters.
They
They don't
are,
use candidates' faces, They use like cartoons. I feel as if a throwback to a very old era,
Yeah.
right? Where
Yeah.
propaganda was put through like illustrations.
yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Hello.
Oh,
Thank you. All right.
That's the Tiong Bahru
Tiong
spirit.
Bahru, yeah, everybody's so nice.
Yeah,
Other
they
places, people are like, hey, get off, don't film outside my house.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, so that was the east.
Yeah.
Now we are in the center part of Singapore. Lots of things to dissect last night.
Yeah.
But if you are tuning into this, whether you're new or old, it would be great if you could tell people what we're doing. We have the APolitical Party Bus, which is our Yah Lah But bus, going around to 33 constituencies over 8 days,
Yeah.
recording one podcast a day in the most hotly contested constituency,
Yeah.
and recording a ton of videos on the street interviews, which go out on social media, which
Yeah.
is Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah.
And if you want to work with us,
Email us at contact@ministryofunny.com.
yeah, cool.
Yep.
And you can find out where we're going to be for each day at yahlahbut.com. Everything's there. Follow us on social media because we got a lot to talk about.
Yeah. All right.
Cool, man.
Let's jump into it, man.
Jump into it. So, I mean, last night was another round of rallies. Then there was also the first roundtable discussion.
Roundtable, yeah.
But first, I mean, the one thing that did stand out in the rally is something that maybe we also have a bit of context on, given that a recent podcast guest earlier this year was at the core of it.
Yeah.
And that is the whole conversation about the PAP candidate Chee Meng, who is running in Jalan Kayu SMC.
Yeah.
So yesterday he gave his first rally, I believe.
Speech at the rally. right?
His
that's right.
first rally speech, and I mean he talked about his history of losing in 2020 to the Sengkang team,
Yeah.
working in NTUC, and he also addressed the one thing that a lot of people hoped he would address, which is the attempted sale of NTUC Income to Allianz.
Yeah, that's right.
But before his speech, right, what did you make of the build up to what he was going to say?
I mean, it's been interesting, right? Because initially, I think nomination day, the chatter was that there was a bit of disappointment at WP's candidate, Andre Loh, going up against Chee Meng, because it seems an imbalance of experience and imbalance of age as well, right? But I think Andre Loh in the last few days at WP rallies has also, impressed people, detractors, and people are realizing, hey, this guy has substance, so there could be a fight. So now the attention has turned to Chee Meng's side, like, can he talk through various things that have happened in his tenure as NTUC SecGen that could affect his chances in Jalan Kayu.
Yeah. And I think the first speech, I think one of the early speeches that Andre gave, I think he put the whole NTUC thing front and center. But I think he couched it in the fact that it was a government thing. He didn't explicitly say Chee Meng.
Correct.
Right? Then during the most recent WP rally at Temasek JC, Pritam ended off the whole session very targeted towards Chee Meng and NTUC in general.
Labour MPs.
Labour MPs. Desmond Chu, who is the Assistant Secretary General, who is contesting in Tampines Changkat against a WP candidate also. And Chee Meng, who is the Secretary General, contesting against Andre Loh.
That's right.
And he didn't hold back.
He didn't hold back.
And then I think it was yesterday, Tan Swee Chie, who was the ex-CEO of NTUC Income, who has been on our podcast, who was very vocal throughout the whole debate around that issue through open letters and all, issued another slate of open letters. There was one open letter to Chee Meng and one open letter to Gan Kim Yong. But the Gan Kim Yong one, that one is separate. But were you surprised that he issued those open letters? That's like his thing, man.
I only saw the one for Tan Chee Meng because it was more
Chee
direct.
Meng.
Sorry, Chee Meng.
Who's Tan Chee Meng?
my secretary, my JC
Okay, PE teacher. My PE teacher also.
Too many Chee Mengs. Shout out to Tan Chee Meng.
Shout out to Tan Chee Meng, man.
Last he scored against me in a football match recently. But anyway, Chee Meng. I mean, I only saw the open letter from Tan Swee Chie to Chee Meng. But again, I want to emphasize that we had Tan Swee Chie on our podcast.
Yeah.
And for me, the NTUC income thing was one of the most underserved topics of last year. News topics that should have had more scrutiny in mainstream media. And there were players involved, people who knew how to who knew about it, like Tan Swee Chee himself, ex-NTUC Income CEO. It took us a bit of, back and forth talking to him to convince him as well, right? To come and tell the story on our podcast, right?
Yeah.
So I encourage people to go and watch it. But I'm giving this context because it's not easy, right? Even for someone like Tan Swee Chee to come out openly and talk about, the issue and go against essentially what was his former colleagues, former bosses and everything, right?
Yeah.
So as much as maybe for people they think it's just an open letter, I'm sure a lot of thought and everything went into it before he put it out as well, right?
Yeah, correct. And I mean, for people who are trying to recall what the whole issue was with the Allianz thing, because I remember when we recorded the podcast, both of us were damn pissed.
Yeah.
And I think I was a lot more pissed than I expected, because the moment you go into the details, it's pretty messed up. So as a high-level summary, the NTUC Income was proposed to be had a portion of it sold to Allianz, this German insurer.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of announcements and debates in Parliament where for the longest time, it felt like if you had any doubt, you are wrong because the government knows better. People like Tan Kin Lian, Tommy Koh, Tan Swee Chee were speaking out, but I remember feeling like, okay, maybe they're a bit clued off, maybe they don't understand the ground. But then it came clear that part of that deal involve a $2 billion capital extraction from NTUC Income to Allianz.
I think
1.85 billion.
Yeah.
And the issue with that is because NTUC Income started as a cooperative and then it got privatized. But corporatized, yeah. Part of that was that any excess funds needs to be returned to the social enterprises of Singapore, and not drained out.
Yeah, there was an amount of money that will be reserved for to go back towards the social enterprise fund, right?
Yeah.
And in the event of a transaction or something,
correct.
Right?
And also because for a cooperative to become corporatized, I think it required a constitutional amendment.
Yes.
And part of that amendment was that, okay, we allow this, but any excess funds, like what you said, needs to be kept within the social enterprise sphere.
And the tricky thing is that it wasn't regulated by MOF or anything.
Yeah.
It was actually a commitment to MCCY that this would be done. So you can already see like how many different parties are involved even in the transaction and how many people actually should have been vetting the transaction at different levels. Right?
Yeah, correct. So then it became clear that this was going to happen, and then Tong Tong from MCCY stepped in because ultimately they had jurisdiction and they could block it. But
they did not have jurisdiction.
Oh, they had to amend the constitution again.
So that MCCY would be, legally required to be consulted, right, for transactions.
Yeah, and they would have the power to block it.
Yeah.
So that whole thing happened, and when you look at it, essentially there were promises that were made and ultimately not kept. And the reason was for, to keep NTUC Income alive and all this other talk. So, Chee Meng was Secretary General of NTUC.
Yeah.
For quite a while already.
Yeah. 2019 to 23, yeah.
2019. So he was Secretary General. He even made a public statement at some point kind of assuring people that to hold income to commitment of keeping 2 existing low-cost insurance schemes affordable during the whole talk of Allianz. So that's the context.
Yeah.
So when Tan Swee Chee issued his open letter, it was kind of asking questions to Chee Meng that he hoped Chee Meng would answer.
Yeah.
Which were quite detailed.
Yeah.
And I wasn't expecting them to be addressed at the rally. So ahead of the rally, did you think that Chee Meng confirm will address it?
No, I was thinking that it would generally be something like they try to, or at least he would try to not answer as much, not to bring to consciousness again because in our experience as well, we felt that it was very underrepresented, right?
Yeah, it was bullshit.
And I can imagine like if they can maintain that as a status quo, they would
Yeah.
But that's where Tan Swee Chee's open letter, I think, opened the can of worms.
Oh, so you think it had a very direct consequence?
I think it did. And after that, of course, the Workers' Party is prodding, right?
Yeah.
Of like having, this guy questioning the decision-making process, right?
Yeah.
So, and questioning, jokingly, but also questioning the what do you call it, competency, right? Where he said like, it will make no difference. I think he said that having more Labour MPs in Parliament won't actually make a difference, right?
Yeah.
Because they already have quite a number in there.
And because they didn't ask questions in Parliament.
Yeah,
No Labour MPs.
No Labour MPs asked the questions about the NTUC deal. They just sort of tacitly, implicitly or tacitly endorsed it, right?
Yeah.
Whereas Workers' Party asked the questions, right?
So when you saw Chee Meng, rock up on stage with Jalan Kayu on his t-shirt, emboldened there, and you watched the speech, what stood out from the speech?
Strange choice of clothing, first I have to say. I'm just so used to at least like all of them quite consistently wearing the shirt and everything, and whatever party you are, usually it's a shirt, right? For the men, right?
Yeah.
So for him to wear that whole Jalan Kayu thing was like almost, I don't know, man, like trying too hard to stand out or trying too hard to fit in some way.
Yeah. I mean, okay, the good thing is that he did address it, which we will unpack.
Yes.
But just from that rally, right, I think certain things about Chee Meng stand out. I think when he makes a point, right, he wants to make it very explicit. So, he's running for Jalan Kayu SMC. He wore a t-shirt that says Jalan Kayu.
Yeah.
When there was someone who I think was experiencing some discomfort in the crowd, he made sure everybody in the crowd and everybody at home knew what was happening play by play for 3 whole minutes.
Basically, someone fainted in the crowd, right?
Yeah.
And for 3 minutes, he stopped talking and they were trying to get medical attention and everything for the person.
Yeah.
Right.
And he started off by saying, can we get some medical help here? Give the person some room to breathe. And there were long pockets of silence.
Yeah, correct.
So when you see that as a viewer, right, how do you feel?
Actually, I have no issue with that. I think, if anything, as human beings, whatever your politics is or what, right, if someone else faint, I think everything should stop for a moment. You see that in football matches, right? When like a player has very bad injury or collapses or something, everything stops. They even call off the match halfway or something like that. And that's how it should be, right? So I have no issue with that per se, like him stopping and all. What I have issue with is that the snippet that mainstream media decided to take from his speech was just that snippet of him like being quiet while someone fainted in the audience. They didn't even show what happened to the person or even talk about what happened to the person. They just showed Chee Meng standing there and looking concerned and all that. And so I was like, why? Why does that matter? Like I know it's not something that happens in every rally, but it's not pertinent at all to the decision-making process and as a mainstream media covering the news and all that. Why is that? Why are you making that news?
The mainstream media, the one that I found was Mothership. Do you see it on other platforms also?
I mean, whatever. I think on YouTube.
YouTube. I mean, Mothership is also now considered mainstream media.
Yeah, so YouTube, like, very
the 3
quickly,
minutes,
the clip just went up already. It was like one of the first clips from his speech that went out.
Yeah, and I mean, even if you look at the Mothership profile, there's like almost 6,500 likes and probably like 100,000 plus views, which is a lot of views.
Yeah.
So going back to what you said, right, I actually have an issue with it. Yes, care for people, But an example you brought up is when the soccer player faints, that's when things stop.
Yeah.
If a fan faints, things just go on.
No, not always. There are times when there's a medical emergency in the audience, and then they stop to make sure that the person is taken care of.
Really? What kind of football games are those? The one with like thousands of people?
Yeah, they happen.
When was the last time you saw that?
I don't know. Definitely have seen it. Definitely.
But
in the last
I would say
years.
you not to say you stop the whole thing. You just make sure that person is taken care of. So to me, I felt like there was a certain level of theatrics.
I mean, okay you can argue theatrics on it, but we also were not there.
Yeah.
Maybe the heat was really bad, and maybe it wasn't even the first case of it. It was just a case in the middle of a speech.
I mean, okay I respect that you're giving a lot of benefit of the doubt, and at the end you want people to be safe But maybe it's because with the Jalan Kayu, who's like, I am in Jalan Kayu. This is Jalan Kayu. There is a doctor treating someone there. I need to tell people what's happening. Mention the name of the doctor and make sure that everything is clear before I move on
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I mean, I'm definitely not for theatrics and all that. But this one, medical emergency, I'm like, no.
But you don't think it could have been dealt with without stopping everything?
No, in fact, I think it's better that they stopped everything also. That the people clear the way, people understand that there's an emergency going on. Yeah, a lot of times we think that isn't it obvious that someone fainted? No, I mean, we've heard enough stories of like crowd stampedes and things like that where worse shit happens because people are not aware of what's going on around them in big crowds especially. So I would totally not be. I would probably differ from you in that. I'm not saying I don't think it was extra theatrics. I just didn't like that the mainstream media pounce on it like it was
Pounce on
some
it,
big thing, lah. You know.
That's that's. I mean, normally the highlights they pick the liners
Say
and all
something
that, right?
of substance, lah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they didn't. Yeah.
So then when it comes to the things he said,
Then the things he said, we can talk about the NTUC thing, lah, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
that was the foremost on my mind.
yeah,
I mean, I felt that it was a lot of sidestepping,
Yeah.
right? A lot of sort of absolving himself and the NTUC management and all of being part of that decision making process that just in hindsight looks so terrible, lah, right? In fact, I think there was even a way. I mean, the way he finagled it almost sounded like the government wanted it this way. We did it in good faith, and yeah, lah, we humbly accept what the government decided, lah, right?
yeah. And I mean, so that's why I respect that he approached it. So that is a good first step. But yeah, the way he approached it, right? Because example, what you said, right? One of the lines he said was that the plan was done in good faith.
Yeah.
There were good reasons to go ahead with the sale.
Yeah.
But as more and more details surfaced, the government viewed it differently and stopped it by amending the law. And his defense is that NTUC couldn't have known the law would be changed. But we respected the government's view and accepted it.
Yeah.
Which I think paints a pretty different picture, lah.
Changes the timeline a bit, right?
Yeah, because I mean, okay, he was Secretary General of NTUC, lah, and he was on the board of directors, I think, of NTUC Income.
Yeah.
You would imagine the board of directors would have a bit more clues on like the details of anything touching like $1.8 billion.
Yeah.
And to say that it was going to go ahead and only the government could stop it, you're not part of the government, and you had no choice, and you accepted the government's decision, feels a bit off, lah.
Yeah, I think we talked on this podcast a lot about responsibility versus accountability, lah, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because he did take responsibility in some way. He did say, sometimes we do what we can, then sometimes we make mistakes, but we learn from them, lah, right?
Yeah.
So there's responsibility. But I guess the accountability part is like, what happens from there, lah, right?
Yeah.
Like, how come now, if anything, it's just like, oh, yeah, you did well as Secretary General, and yeah, we need to put you in Parliament so that you can do better, lah, right?
Yeah.
In fact, that's what Pritam said, lah, right? If he's doing a good job, we should keep him as Secretary General. Don't distract him with putting him in Parliament,
So attend all his long sessions and all.
Yeah, exactly.
He's fighting for the workers.
If he's making mistakes because he didn't see certain parts of the deal, right? If there was an oversight on his part and all, then he really does maybe need more time and attention on his NTUC job rather than as a MP, lah, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I would say that I was willing to give him a chance to explain, lah, because like these kind of things, when you're very high up, sometimes things fall through the cracks. Sometimes things get missed. Sometimes you can understand why things happen. Not to say that you shouldn't be accountable, but there's no malice involved, lah. But the way he approached it, almost kind of like simplifying the issue, is a big problem, because even when we were researching it, it's not the most straightforward issue, lah, right?
Yeah.
And once you understand the details, you're like, how the fuck did this happen?
Yeah.
So when he says that, and then one of his things is that the NTUC will learn the right lessons and do better.
Yeah.
Also feels a bit weak, lah, because for a large part of these past few days, we have heard so much about all the amazing things that the PP has done.
Yeah.
They never fall short of talking about all the things they have done well, lah.
Yeah.
But when these kind of things are just swept under the carpet, it's a big problem.
And I think maybe that is where the whole symbiotic relationship between the NTUC and the government is problematic here, lah, right?
Yeah.
Because now you got this NTUC Secretary General who's running to be part of the government, lah, right? And actually, you think about it, like his role as NTUC Secretary General and him wanting to be part of the government can and should be separate things. Don't conflate them, lah, right? And each side would have a different explanation of this NTUC-Allianz issue, lah, right? NTUC, maybe didn't see things and screwed up. Okay, then that's for him to handle. But the government side, I remember when we talked about this issue, in fact, we talked about maybe it's a good thing that the government saw this as a problem. Maybe they found the problem and they went in and fixed it, right?
So the check and balance is internal.
But now, because government and NTUC are so conflated, and this NTUC Secretary General is trying to run in government, they almost have to answer as one. And I think they lose that potential of using the argument that, you see, we actually stepped in and stopped this,
But
as
then,
a government.
Based on what Chan Chun Sing said, because he used to be the previous Secretary General of NTUC, he said by having the higher-ups of NTUC in Parliament, they can directly raise the issues.
But if you have a symbiotic relationship, you should be able to do that already, lah.
Not symbiotic enough, Terrence.
I don't know how much more in bed you can get than that already. Yeah.
It's like you and your in-laws, right? Do you find that there's enough, like, do you need to be part of like their daily life to be able to raise stuff, or you can kind of go through your wife?
Bit of both lah. Yeah, bit of both. I think both can.
Yeah, both can, right?
Yeah, I don't have to. You have your own mouth and everything. You can have a conversation as adults, right?
And so it's not like your office is in Tuas or something like. It's in Marina One.
Yeah, it's a beautiful office in Marina One, by the way.
Yeah. So, and you know, as much as it sounds, some people would say, but they need to have a close relationship.
Yeah.
Where it gets muddled, right? Even from the optics. Okay.
Yeah.
These elections, there's a lot of optics involved. The next speaker after Chee Meng, who was the last speaker of the night, was none other than Assembly, right? Hsien Loong, power heavyweight, still a very good orator. He actually defended Chee Meng quite a lot. And he even said that Chee Meng shouldn't be blamed because the WP would have approved it if they were in charge as well. And I think that's paraphrasing by mainstream media. If I recall, what he said was that the WP asked only one question, while 6 questions were fielded by the PAP. It may not have been from the Labour MPs, but the check and balance suffices. There were 6. Yeah. And when there was a motion to change the constitution...
Amendments bill.
The amendment bill, WP didn't do anything.
Yeah, abstained.
They abstained, yeah.
But yeah, I think that's where the timeline actually is playing a bit of the timeline, right? Because WP asked questions about the deal.
Yeah.
They abstained from the amendments bill because there were concerns about the amendments bill.
Because it was being forced through, right? Yeah.
And the processes and all. And I remember that in Parliament, even Leong Man Wai also asking questions, right?
Yeah.
So saying that because they abstained from the amendments bill means that they would have done anything. I think he made an example. If you do 0, 10 times 0, 100 times 0, it's the same also, Yeah.
Oh yeah, he actually said he brought his mathematical background.
Cambridge mathematical background to it. But I feel like that is fudging the timeline a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And we know because we've spoken to Tan Swee Chee, person. He's very detailed about the timeline. Yeah. And at the end of the day, Tan Swee Chee just pointed out that he had tried to engage with Chee Meng.
Yeah.
He sent I think private correspondence to Chee Meng.
Yeah.
And didn't get responses, right?
Yeah.
So if the ex-CEO of a place that you're running emails you and tells you about something problematic to look at or all that, the fact that it wasn't addressed, I think is a very big glaring omission.
Yeah. And I mean, going back to what you said about it being like too close a relationship, right? If you look at Tan Swee Chee's post, in late July 2024, which was before Parliament said, he wrote privately to Mr. Ng and Ms. K. Tana Lechmi, who is the president of NTUC. And I think he has also been very detailed about what he spoke in those letters. Yeah. But did you know that 2 days ago, the NTUC dished out a top Mayday award from NTUC for supreme contributions to the labour movement? Do you know who got the award?
Who got it?
Hsien Loong.
Hsien Loong, I see.
And he is presented the award by none other than Miss K. Tana Lechmi.
I see.
So, yes, they might be completely, like efficient and no muddling of waters. But when you look at it, right, for Assembly to come out and say things like, would have been approved if WP is in power and all that, then 2 days prior, 25th April 2025, he's receiving an award from NTUC by people who, being given an award by someone who was already called into question, who didn't respond. It just leaves what is this? What's going on?
I think if we just take the symbiotic relationship between the government and NTUC at face value, okay lah, they work closely together, all that. I think, but yeah lah, the big thing is he was using a lot of hypotheticals. Yeah. And he said that Workers' Party would have done nothing, right?
Yeah.
Workers' Party is not even close to forming the government at any point in time.
Yeah.
You were having 10 seats versus having 90 seats, right?
Yeah.
It's a big difference. I think your strategy will be very different. The way you do things will be very different.
Yeah.
And I felt a lot of people are just saying you can't extrapolate that from how they abstain from voting as a block of 10 into their behavior as a block of 90 for example.
Correct.
Right? Yeah. Anyone knows that, right? Yeah. Anyone 101, like politics 101, you know that it'll be different.
Yeah, and there was another case from another rally where Jeffrey Xiao, a new PAP candidate, I think he was, there were articles about him, how he said, what has the opposition done for Singapore in times of crisis?
Yeah.
Which again is that same comparison. I think almost feels like you're equating the WP candidates or any opposition candidates with ministers.
Yeah.
who really can effect the most consequential change. So, I mean, when you look at it, it's just tough to see like something weird there. And then Assembly said, tough to not see something weird. And Assembly also said that when it came to decide who was going to run for candidates, he recommended to PM Wong that Chee Meng should run. Which is why, right, the more we talk about it, right, I actually think Jalan Kayu is one of the most important constituencies because I think the results will reveal a lot about Singapore. Because I mean, there are not many candidates who are as polarizing as Chee Meng. I don't think so, right? And yes, you have a new, very green WP candidate coming forth. But I mean, if you do believe in like the manifesto, it is really like, okay, if Chee Meng gets voted in, right? I think it's a slap in the face.
Okay.
Because I feel like, you know, when there's GRC against GRC, you can argue that they got anchor, you know, new, they can kind of balance each other off. But SMC is a head-to-head. And I think with all these questions being put in public with to Chee Meng, if he still gets voted in, right, then to me it's like, wow, it's a sign.
So I can buy that, and that, like, I think it's a referendum on Chee Meng, right?
Yes.
The part that I'm very confused by the PAP strategy is like, they've forgone being able to say that, hey, you know, we stepped up quickly to this NTUC thing, and Tong Tong came in and did all this very quickly, decisively, all that. They're forgoing a lot of that in order to support Chee Meng's entry into Parliament, I feel. Right?
Because you're saying that could have been an angle.
That could have been an angle, but they have to play along with Chee Meng's storyline because he's trying to get in, right?
Actually, that's true. If they really put that as an angle, you know, opposition talks about check and balance.
Own self check, own self works.
It works.
It works.
Actually, that's such a... You can't argue against it because I remember when we recorded a podcast, we did give props to Edwin Tong, right?
And I felt like at least he explained very clearly the timeline, and I felt, okay, I'm convinced that there was oversight of that, but at least you gave us the full timeline, and I understand why, and you're all moving fast to fix it now. But now, because they're throwing a weight behind Chee Meng, you have to sort of buy into his very vague timeline and about how he didn't know this, didn't know that, and all that, right?
And the paper trail, like there's literally an article where his face is there, and this is from 2024, 5th August, that he pledges to hold income to his commitment of keeping existing low-cost insurance schemes affordable. So, if you're making those sort of promises regarding a deal, you would assume that you know the details of a deal.
Correct.
If someone wants to buy a house and got some leakage and all when you finally buy it, you can't say, when details of the leak surface, that was when I found out. No, it's your fucking problem.
But that's the thing, maybe it's just a matter of, you know, the saying, in a team, you're only as fast as your slowest man, right? So Tong Tong wants to sprint all the way to the front, but he can't, because he has to go back and help the stragglers, right? And then follow along with their story.
He has to run to Tete, right? He's late for Tete.
So I said, me, Edwin Tong, I feel that you can totally use this to your advantage to say, you know, that the own self works, but you can't now because of Chee Meng's angle.
So, you know, looking at how Chee Meng deployed to fight at SMC, when before we got Chee Soon Juan on, I realized I read that when he was, you know, challenging someone from the PAP, apparently Goh Chok Tong in the 90s carved out an SMC so that Chee Soon Juan can take a PAP MP on a candidate one-on-one, and Chee Soon Juan lost. So maybe, of course, this is putting my tinfoil hat, maybe it's like, okay, this is your chance to prove your worth. If you cannot make it, then sorry, we gave you a chance. This is all on you. And Chee Meng also recognized that. He said it is up to him to prove his commitment. And I mean, granted, NTUC, I'm not fully clued in on the details of the work they do, but given the benefit of the doubt, maybe he did a lot of good work. Then it's on him to work his way back into Parliament.
Correct. I guess you give credit where credit is due. So that he's not being parachuted alongside Assembly in Ang Mo Kio. That would have triggered a lot of alarm bells. Right?
He's putting out to battle.
He has to fight. So I mean, I guess the good thing is now we can talk about the tactics that they're using. And how, you know, along the way, you know, Tong Tong loses a certain trump card that he has because of these tactics.
And you can do like a one-to-one correlation. What Chee Meng says, what happens in the end. There's a very direct correlation. You can't blame it on other ministers. That's why I think it's going to be, like what you say, is a referendum for something that could be very... It's a litmus test.
But did you see there was another open letter from supposedly a fellow comrade
I saw
from
that.
NTUC from, I think his name is David Loong.
Yeah.
He posted something that was basically a call to action for Chee Meng, comrade Ng to step up and prove his battle worthiness, right? And it was a very strange open letter because
think,
it was one of the most backhanded complimentary open letters that, I support you, but you need to do all this in order to prove your worth kind of letters. So, I mean, we won't go through too much of it in detail because I can't verify a lot of the things that he says about, being part of the party and all that, but not being part of the party, being part of NTUC and all. But it was, if it reminds you of the kind of emails that you finesse to send to your boss, to tell your boss that you fucked up, but this is how we can make it better.
No, I think he probably wrote a letter and then he put it in the ChatGPT with a prompt saying, okay, I can't make this guy look bad, but I need to communicate my points correctly.
Yeah.
I need to use comrade 4,000 times. I need to make every sentence twice as long as it needs to be.
Yeah.
And it gives this.
Correct. Because again, I think a lot of the amateur users of ChatGPT don't know when you have that very long M dash, as it's called, the M dash.
The M dash.
ChatGPT loves the M dash, right?
Yeah, that's
and
true.
It's quite, to me, that's a possible sign that you're using ChatGPT, and there were M dashes in there.
Yeah, so as a paragraph, okay, he did bring up some points, which is like the subtext, like, you fucked up.
Yeah.
Can you just answer?
Yeah.
But couched in words like, as a former lieutenant general in the Singapore Armed Forces, you are no stranger to the art of defending your ground. Battleground strategies, M dash, rooted in preparation, adaptability, and decisive action, M dash, are second nature to you. Yet in the political theatre, you have yet to fully deploy these tactics. Consider the Battle of Stalingrad. So it's like, insert historical reference.
Historical military reference.
Historical military reference.
It's like he's scared that Chee Meng don't understand unless it's a military reference.
Because he says, in Jalan Kayu, your terrain is the community, a sleepy enclave. M dash, heartlanders grappling with cost of living. He's probably like, okay, this is a really hardcore military dude. Just explain in his word, in his language.
But I mean, okay, let's take it at face value that he is someone from there.
Because he had some points.
And he's a comrade and all that, right?
Yeah.
But if it requires you to write an open letter phrase like that to tell your boss something, right? It kind of tells you about the culture also, right? Within the group, right?
Yeah.
Of how you have to couch criticism and all that until to this level of using ChatGPT to come up with historical military references. Then I'm like, walao, it's that kind of organization. Sounds familiar. Like, which organization that most, at least half of us have been in that, where you have to kind of tiptoe around criticism like that.
I mean, it's weird one interesting point he brought up was talk about the review of using Marina 1 as the HQ of NTUC.
Yeah.
Which I was like, whoa, okay, that's interesting. So I mean, that's a big that's why I think the gist, the motivation behind this is noble.
Yeah.
But maybe he really had to couch it a certain way.
He had to couch it.
Yeah.
But
yeah, man, it'll be cool to see what happens next.
Developing story.
Because there were some other things that happened last night also.
Yeah, I think that's where the rallies, I think instead of saying that we started to enter meme land already.
Meme land.
It continues, right?
Yeah,
it just continues again.
Yeah.
I mean, the most shocking one was obviously the what happened at the start of the SDP rally.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Which was, them tackling head on the kerfuffle that was caused by one of their candidates who's running for Marsiling UT, Gigine Wong.
Yeah, and a KLK comment.
And TLK?
KLK.
KLK.
Yeah. KLK is the new KKK.
That's it? That's the term people are using. KLK.
I mean, you can't expect
because
me to
you
keep
can't say
saying
KLK.
So I have to say KLK.
The KLK gate. KLK gate. Because it was Chee Soon Juan who came up, and then Gigine Wong herself came up, and then Arifin Shah came up, and then Paul Tambaya came up, and then in the end they stood in one row and bowed. And I mean, I remember parts of Gigine Wong, she was saying that she didn't realize that it had, the connotations. It's a common term that's used, and she is very apologetic. She's apologized to Arifin. Arifin also said she apologized to him. And they spent quite a good amount of time on the apology.
Yeah, but the interesting thing wasn't, to me, I mean, Gigine Wong very contrite, obviously, looked very sad and all these things. And I hope someone vetted her speech this time.
She was about to go up. Let me take a look.
Don't deviate. But so she did read an apology, very contrite. But The more interesting thing was, that Chee Soon-Juan sort of opened for her, and then after that, Arifin spoke in Tambaya.
Yeah.
And I think they were trying to make it very clear that the senior leadership of SDP very quickly chastised her.
Yeah.
And they also, Arifin's speech emphasized a lot on how he felt about it and how he was getting a lot of people pinging him, hey, how did this really happen, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, he brought up his mother again. I think his mother is very influential.
He brought his
Even
mother.
Gigine said...
Gigine referenced his mother and he
you.
talked about his mother like texting him.
Yeah.
He said he texted his friend who speaks Hokkien to confirm if it was really the tone, and yes, it was.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
It really was KLK. So I thought it was interesting that they did it that way, because at least I think, the very somber faces of Paul Tambaya and Chee Soon-Juan kind of show you that they knew immediately that something fucked up already, right? And they needed to step in. But that they gave Arifin the space to also reflect a lot about his feelings, about the challenges that minorities face and the privilege that some people have that they don't even know that KLK is an offensive word, right? But what do you think of this sequence of the speeches and all that? How do you feel as you were watching them one by one?
I mean, I thought the sequence, I wouldn't have arranged it any other way. I think that way was good. Chee Soon-Juan came out very briefly, introduced Eugene Wong, and then Arifin had the longest time, and then Paul Tambaya came, and because for SDP, I feel Paul Tambaya is the unifying glue.
He's the heart, right?
He's the heart,
Yeah,
correct. Chee Soon-Juan is like, his conviction is his strongest weapon.
Yeah.
But Paul Tambaya, he's such a nice demeanor, brings people together. So the order, I think, A score.
They're like
A marks.
last time cartoon Captain Planet kind of thing. Then they have 5 rings, right? Then Paul Tambaya is heart. The guy.
that's right.
Then Chee
Gigine
Soon-Juan
is fire.
I don't know if fire is the right way, but okay.
Wait, it was earth, water...
Fire, wind, water, heart. Yeah, together they are Captain Planet.
Yeah.
So, Gigine maybe is the fire that needs to be
quelled by the water that is Arifin. The water is maybe Paul Tambaya.
Water, then who's the heart?
Chee Soon-Juan.
Chee Soon-Juan. But Chee Soon-Juan also very fiery and everything.
He's fiery,
So I would say maybe Chee Soon-Juan wind. Water maybe Paul Tambaya. Although Gigine Wong loves to talk about water, so but anyway, she had a reference about water
She
before.
called the PAP plain water.
The sequence was interesting, right?
Yeah.
I was trying to. I think we were speculating what SDP could possibly do to work out this situation, right?
Yeah.
I thought it was okay. At least it was good that they gave Arifin the bulk of the time to talk about feeling hurt. Feeling very shocked. I think he said appalled, appalling thing to say. So there he didn't mince his words about how he felt, right? And he even detailed how he had to text his friend who speaks Hokkien to ask. So I felt for him in that way that when something bad happens to you, it's not just you almost second guess yourself. Am I being too sensitive about something? And then you start asking people, right? Yeah. And I felt in that moment, I empathize with that feeling, right? And it's just quite unfortunate that happened to him,
Yeah. And I mean, I think I think a lot of people could have seen this coming. Not to take away from the genuineness and sincerity of that. I think for them, politically, it makes sense to really own the mistake. Because we have seen times in the past where the PAP has had some members say some stuff that was caught either on a hot mic or basically hot mics. There is the fucking populist one by Tan Chanjin and Vivian Balakrishnan talking about the good schools. And I think...
Lousy school.
Lousy school. I think for both those instances, it always felt like it was kind of minimized or swept under the carpet. Tan Chanjin, of course, he stood down, but that was also on the back of his affair. The thing is, one thing that I didn't know until you brought it up was, as a candidate, once you're declared as a candidate and nominated, you cannot step down.
Correct,
Which makes sense, because then all the strategy, all the last minute swapping and all doesn't kick in.
I don't know if it was a timing thing, but it just happened that yesterday there was a video about what happens if something bad happens to a candidate before the election.
Oh, is it?
A video from mainstream media came out. And the main thing is just basically the only way you can change anything is if there's a death or major illness or something right? But other than that, you're sort of stuck with it. whatever nomination day, which makes sense because if not, people will game the system, right?
correct.
Yeah. So SDP is stuck with Gigine Wong, whatever it is. I mean, is there a possibility of like you say, okay, to account for actions, she needs to step down?
Run with 4 people. Or...
No, we win the election. After that, she will step down and we'll have a by-election. But you can't, there's like so many steps to promise. So that's why they're also in this position, right? What can they do? You know?
So I bet, I mean, it's a bit sad lah, because I thought, you know, we had both Paul Tambaya and Chee Soon Juan on our podcast. And I thought as a party, they had momentum lah, you know. They, of course, the thing that is now being brought into question is Arafin's role with Wake Up Singapore lah.
Yeah.
Because, you know, he runs Wake Up Singapore. And like what we discussed before, right? Like if this were to happen on any normal day, Wake Up Singapore would be the first one to tear the person to shreds lah.
And call for accountability, not just responsibility.
So then now he's stuck in a different position lah.
Correct lah, especially
which is the problem lah that we mentioned, right?
Yeah, she created this problem lah. Yeah.
So I feel for the party is damn sad because overall net impact, right, I think is very negative. And I think like okay, if you could rework, if they came to you, Terence, we have 30 minutes in this rally, what should we do?
Yeah, I mean, and maybe that's the. I was just thinking about this morning, like, you know, nowadays in schools or that, there's no more public caning already, right? Because now that you've removed this form of punishment that is so humiliating, but it doesn't hurt someone physically until they cannot walk or what, right? You know, but it's humiliating enough that people are like, okay, I accept that as a.
So it's not like the jail caning.
It's not a jail caning.
It's more just
a big rattan stick that the principal holds. So last time when you screw up, you beat someone in school, that you get this public caning in school. It's mostly about the humiliation. It's not like they can't sit down or anything like that. It's just very humiliating, and it's just when we talk about it today, 20 years later, we still remember the instances where people got publicly caned, right? So if that was still around, maybe that might have been like the next best option already lah. Public caning for somebody where there's no real lasting physical harm, but it's so humiliating, and that people were just like, okay, I think that's enough penance already.
Yeah, you know? Because I mean, again, they said the word she's been counseled lah. What the hell does that mean lah? What does that mean she's been counseled? So it sucks for them lah. Maybe
bowing down, honestly, after Goh Meng Seng and PPP did it already, it doesn't mean anything anymore.
Fucking small market for bows,
he knew, he's so prescient. He knew that this would
I'm going to conquer the bowing market.
I'll take the bow first, and he bowed for like a damn stupid reason also, for fighting multi-cornered fights.
Yeah, correct. Maybe that's why he was so pissed off that WB pulled out lah. Because for him, like, I bow to contest, but they just pull out.
And then that's why people say he's a mole of the establishment. He does all these things first so that when other people do it, it doesn't mean as much.
Because what else? I mean, honestly, that by-election thing, it sounds extreme, but it feels like if it's just this, right? But then now if they bring it up in the next rally, it also feels like you're going back to the past. Wow, it really sucks for them, man.
But you think about it. Think about what PSP did. When Leong Man Wai was slapped with a POFMA for, you know, when he was
stepped down.
He talked to an old couple who told him that they didn't receive a lot of help from the government for a lot of things, but it turned out that they actually received quite an amount of help, right? So I think he also didn't do his fact checking and he got bamboozled, and then he had been POFMA'd Right after that, not long after that, PSP actually had him step down as Secretary General, and Hazel Phua took over. And then now, close to the election, when they did their CEC, the Central Executive Committee nominations again, they elected him again. So he's back as Secretary General. So,
you mean have a by-election where she runs, then that's her referendum.
So in some ways, we have seen, you know, this done before, where there has to be accountability, not just responsibility, accountability, and action that pulls you further down, humiliates you a little bit, and then gives you a bit of time to build it back up, you know. And I think that's the problem now, that they're stuck in that there's not much that they can do for her, right?
Make her run around the rally ground. Last time school punishment, right? You know, run 20 laps.
20 laps.
She's like, okay, Gigine, you walk until the next rally.
Like, okay, Gigine's speech now, she's going to run 2 laps around and then give her speech. And then she's going to be exhausted.
And must say, KLK is bad. KLK. One of my friends kena that in army.
Was it?
Yeah, because I mean, it was somewhat kind of like...
You directed you?
No, another friend.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
but I mean, it's not say the friend raised it up, but the platoon commander heard the instructor.
I see.
And he made him run saying, shout, I love Indians, just around the command square, the parade square.
Did that make you feel better?
Actually, he did. He did. I was like, look at that dumbass.
And so humiliation sometimes works.
It helps. Okay,
it helps,
human nature. It did. I was like, yeah, because he made the whole platoon sit down and then just watch him run,
Yeah, exactly.
Watch him run.
It
It was great.
So
and I felt vindicated. Yeah.
It's such a waste. Like half all army guys, we've been through training on how to properly punish people and then get them back together in the group again.
Yeah.
We're not allowed to use it because of this. This politically correct world that we live in now.
Yeah,
right?
it was great. And I mean, there were some side benefits as well because as he was running around the parade square shouting, I love Indians, other Indian cadets were like, I love you too. So he just led to just an outpouring of love.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you do that at a rally, maybe people will be like, feel there's a bit much.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you were watching or listening to the rally, someone was shouting, let's move on. Let's move on.
Damn terrible.
In the middle of the speeches.
Arifin speech.
Arifin speech, almost like. And that's the problem when people just say, just move on, where you're sort of downplaying someone's feelings about something, dismissing their feelings as unimportant compared to the momentum or the flow of the event. And then I think that's not good. And that's where, imagine if Chee Meng just moved on when someone fainted in the crowd. Right.
Hey, don't try and fucking draw this invisible threat.
Yeah.
No. I'm not saying move on. I'm saying you address it, but the full 3 minutes, a bit long.
Yeah. But tough. This is a difficult situation for SDP to navigate, for sure. Because they are supposed to be the most progressive and everything already. And this happened to them,
Sad. I mean, a big part of what they're talking about is mental health, right? And look at what you did to Arifin.
Yeah, correct. I mean, shout out to Arifin. I think he's strong, He's strong.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been through worse. He's been through worse.
Yeah.
But now it's not just about him or Wake Up Singapore. It's about SDP as a party. Really.
SDP
Yeah.
So I mean, we see I don't think they'll bring it up in future rallies I don't think they'll bring it up.
I don't think so. Yeah. But it can be used against them.
Oh yeah. I mean, you think about as an opponent, it's like, is this the person you want that has been nominated? What about the processes and all?
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, man. So I mean. One of the things that we wanted to talk about in this podcast, spend a good amount of time, was a roundtable discussion.
Oh, God.
But honestly, what is there to talk about?
It was disaster. It was such a disaster, man.
Yeah. So I don't even have anything to say, which is why I don't think we need to spend that much time on it.
Yeah.
It's just very sad because it was so disappointing.
Yeah.
And drilling.
But I mean, why do you say sad?
Because I think the format is also different from the last time.
It was, yeah.
Because now the format, for those who never watched, was like there'll be 3 areas and 3 questions asked by the moderator, who was Ottilie Edwards.
Yeah.
Each of the 4 opposition parties have 1 minute each, and incumbent has 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And then after that, there'll be an expert sitting there to ask each of them questions on their responses.
Yeah.
And then they move on. They take a break and then they move on to the next topic. The last one, there was actually debates between the candidates.
Yeah, the 2020 election.
Which is where we saw James and Vivian Balakrishnan.
Yeah,
and even Chee Soon and Vivian Balakrishnan.
Yeah.
And yesterday it felt like what? And like, certain people like from PSP, what was her name?
Stephanie Tan.
Stephanie Tan and Michael Teng from WP. I thought, okay, they conducted themselves well. Lim Tian, I thought he was just angry the whole time.
He was just Lim Tian.
He's just Lim Tian. Ravi Philemon said stuff, but I wasn't sure what he was talking about. And Chee Yong Tat felt like I was reading off a script.
An iPad. A lot of people were saying, how come the government have iPad, the others only pen and paper?
And this was even after the question was asked by the expert. There were times you can see him glance at the iPad. Maybe his notes. Maybe
everyone's on airplane mode. Maybe you have to be airplane mode. I don't know what the rules were. I know at the end, at one point, I think, as the camera was pulling out of the event, then I think Michael Teng wanted to stand up and leave already. Then I think they saw, then he sat down again. And then waited until all the way at the end. So you can tell it's very tightly controlled, this whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, some of them, I think maybe first time, because quite a few times when Ottilie would ask the question, they would immediately answer, they'd be like, your time starts now, correct. 1 minute.
But it was, I felt so sad because...
excited about it, right? The potential.
Yeah, excited about potential. Not even just for opposition, right? Not even just for opposition, but let's say like even the PP could have fielded like one of the newer candidates, put them out there, and then we get a sense of who they are and everything. But we got Chee Meng lah, who we see enough of him in Parliament and already lah, right? So yeah lah, I mean, Lim Tian, you've seen him before. Ravi Philemon, quite new also to audience and all. But yeah, we just didn't get a chance to see anybody new. Didn't get a chance to really learn anything of substance. In fact, I feel like they should, if they're going to do it like that, they must have just done an email interview. Just send the questions, ask them to reply email, or just read it to a mobile phone video or something like that.
Yeah.
What is the point of calling a round table if there's nobody talking to each other at the table, right?
Yeah. That's right, exactly. It's not a round table. It's like speed dating like that.
Yeah, speed dating or even
speed
worse.
dating.
Yeah. And what do you think of the experts' questions and all?
I mean, not like, okay, so I think at least two of them asked for specific policies that you would implement to back up what you just said lah.
Yeah.
Which I think, okay, it is a logical question to ask, and I didn't have too many issues about your questions, given that they only have 1 minute to respond.
Yeah. But I just felt the whole format, I mean, especially as people in the media industry, all that, right? I feel like the format was just terrible.
Terrible.
Yeah, terrible.
It was so disappointing.
And if anything, I think, rightly or wrongly, it just painted the incumbent in a bad light lah. Because it made it look so one-sided, where the incumbent has so much more time, even though they're not even responding to each other lah, right?
Yeah, because I couldn't find anything on why they have more time. Like for the political party broadcast, it's directly proportional to the number of seats you're contesting.
Yeah.
But for this, I don't see any reason. And
I think they painted it as like because it's
got 4 people asking.
Yeah, incumbent versus opposition, so half between the incumbent and opposition, and then the opposition split the time between them lah. But in some sense I can. Okay, because let's say if there is interaction between the two, the opposition will all be blasting the incumbent,
correct,
right?
correct. Then
the
you need more time.
needs more time. But there was no zero interaction, so this made zero sense. And the incumbent had 4 minutes to answer one question, whereas others had 1 minute to answer one question.
That's true. Because if 4 of them have 1 minute to ask a question, you assume, the guy needs 4 minutes to respond.
So that's why I think it actually works against PAP's favor to have it where this format actually made it look so one-sided and so unfair and rigged, which it might not. I don't even know how much say they had in it. Okay, you can speculate on all these things. I'll just take it at face value that, what it is. But the other thing that people also pointed out is that actually, when this kind of speeches, right, you might not even want to have 4 minutes. You might actually want to have less time. 4 minutes actually is a lot of time to fill. And you have to fill with a lot of stats and everything like that. Whereas 1 minute, you can sort of just get to your point quickly. You don't have to provide a lot of
statistics. People can remember.
People can remember, yeah. But 4 minutes is just droning already. So if you told me like, okay, PAP has 2 minutes while the others have 1 minute, okay lah, right?
And yeah, they are supposed to be the ones with all the practice, right?
Yeah.
So
I think 4 minutes worked against their favor lah, basically.
And then you hear a lot again about what has been done, what is being done, but nothing to inspire lah.
Nothing.
Which is a bit weird because all the opposition candidates were talking about what they would like to change, but the incumbent was very defensive lah.
Yeah, correct.
So yeah, I thought it would be like one of the topics, but no, nothing to say.
Yeah, nothing to say.
Hopefully the next one is better lah.
Hopefully. Yeah.
But yes. All right. So we have the two segments. Our one Shiok Comment and one Shiok Thing. Do you have your one Shiok Comment?
Not yet. Do you have yours already?
Okay.
Let me pull mine up.
Hang on.
Yeah, because you've just been flooded with a lot of comments everywhere.
Yeah.
And I mean, we read a lot and we respond a lot, but it's always nice to hear from people from different places. And I think you're looking at Reddit, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, there was one. I mean, since you highlighted a comment earlier, you take that. You take that.
Take what?
The one that you told us just now, which was very sweet.
No.
You got another one?
I have another one. Yeah.
Okay. So mine is on the Reddit thread for 654, the last episode. Reddit user called Sekmet_2022. Great discussion, but also just wanted to jump on and say how much I personally appreciate the sheer amount of work it takes to travel around, put out a podcast, and stay on top of the news every day. What a feat. I was one of the listeners who took issue with your stance on Marine Parade Rattle Heights. But it also made me realize you make me feel very deeply about these issues. I never used to be a person who comments on Reddit, but this election period, wow, I feel some fire in me. Thank you to you both and to your team.
Yeah.
I didn't have the options growing up in SG in the 90s, so I was quite an angsty teenager. I appreciate the space you create for thoughtful consideration and passionate expression. Thank you. Wow.
Yeah.
Solid.
My one Shiok comment also is from YouTube. On our last episode where PM Wong slams identity politics. So SM Reactions Are the Best says, great episode. This is why y'all my favorite podcast for this GE. Appreciate y'all's perspective on race and religion, applying a bit more critical thinking about what we see in the headlines and the super loaded terminology of politics. It reminds me of Pol Sci 101 where there were like 4 different definitions for that accursed term. LOL. So I think yesterday we're having a discussion about what it means to not mix race and religion politics, all right?
Yeah.
After that, we sort of came to the conclusion that it depends on what you define as politics. Yeah, so I never did Poli Sci 101 or anything, so it's nice that we know that they are discussing this in their 101 classes as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. And you got your one Shiok thing, or you want me to go?
You go first. Yep.
So I mean, there's a lot of roundtable discussions happening, you know. But there's one video from a channel that we know of. It's called Inconvenient Questions, and they tend to get like older folk to talk about politics, and it's chaired by Viswa, who has had his own storied past. But just looking at the quality of the video, I thought the one they did on getting elected cannot be just politics, and the GE2022 panel discussion. Okay lah, not bad lah. And the first one, Inderjit Singh was one of the guests.
Yeah.
So I thought as far as roundtable discussions go, because so much, this one I was like, hey, actually this one, okay lah, not bad lah, worth listening lah.
My one Shiok thing, I guess, is something we did reference on the last podcast lah, but we never officially post or call out about it lah, right? It was basically, I think the other podcast, Daily Catch Up as well, that's doing a lot of stuff about elections. They're doing slightly different format from ours, right? Like live stream show every 6 or 9 days talking about election, and we were on the show a couple of days ago talking to
last Friday,
talking to Lim Tian and SDA's Desmond Lim. So I thought it was a interesting episode. It's fun engaging with the candidates as well. It's I think they have their audience that appreciates that format as well, and I think at least they're trying to do something where they're also representing a lot of different candidates from the election. So I think they took a weekend break. Yeah. But if anyone's watching, do watch the episode that we are in as well. I think you can see our faces very clearly when talking to Lim Tian, and the expressions on our faces too. So shout out to Daily Catch Up folks also.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
Awesome. So that's Day 6 podcast wrapped. Thank you so much for listening. Remember, we are, right now after this, we are literally going to go to 3 other constituencies to create more content. They're all going to be on social media. So please follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Reddit. Yeah. And if you want to work with us, we're still checking emails.
So email us at contact@ministryoffunny.com. Yeah.
Solid, man.
Signing out from
Tanjong Pagar GRC.
Tiong Bahru in Tanjong Pagar GRC.
Okay. Yeah.